Well, is it true that you spent 3 months secluded in your bedroom as a teenager?
Much more than that, I'm sure, but I do distinctly remember one period where I hardly ever left the room for a 3-month period.
What were you doing in there?
Well, that's a good question. I used to write furiously, and I was just really nailed to the typewriter, and I was swimming in paper and all kind of introspective things like that. I wasn't exactly your average teenager.
Did you want to stay there?
The alternatives weren't very glamorous. If I left the room, I'd probably end up at some obscure pub or wandering about the park, which was always quite dangerous. I really had no options. I mean, I was living the kind of life. I was unemployed for a very long time and I had no money. I was living a life to a large degree that I didn't choose, being financially absurdly embarrassed. So it really seemed to me that I would never ever settle for second best in life. That if I couldn't have exactly what I wanted, then I would have absolutely nothing. Because to me, nothing always seemed more important to me than a false something or something that I didn't really want. So therefore I stayed in. I did nothing. I just wrote, and I was determined that if I couldn't have exactly what I wanted, then I would disappear into the woodwork.
What did you write about, and what happened to all that stuff?
Most of it I later destroyed, because on reflection it always seemed so embarrassingly real and personal that it could only ever really be destroyed. But I did write lots of things that I still have. It got to the point with me where I'd simply write anything just for the sake of writing. Just kind of critical essays on certain things that nobody really cared about.
Do you like the idea, then, of living in a secret world?
Not especially, not really. I mean, if somebody said to me, would you rather be incredibly popular and have a throng of supportive friends, or would you rather be a distressed, hysterical person locked in the bedroom? I think I really would choose to be quite popular. But I don't remember choosing the way I lived.
But it seems very much like a kind of fantasy world, your teenage.
It does, but I can assure you it really wasn't. But I think you can look upon almost anything and almost any existence which is quite extraordinary, and it can almost sound quite fantastic and like a fantasy. It's like the lives of very famous people can seem incredibly glamorous when slapped onto paper, but of course, for a large point, they couldn't possibly be.
Because most teenagers become obsessed with sex.
Mm.
Did you go through that period?
No, I never did. I think I brushed quite close when I was 19 and 20, but previous to that period I didn't give it a great deal of thought, and it wasn't really something that I really needed to think about, because in my life it didn't really exist. I was aware that certain things should have occurred and certain things should interest me, and I was aware of teenagers around me frolicking about and being incredibly inconsequential and free-thinking, which I never was. So that kind of period when you're just supposed to be totally reckless and you're supposed to care about nothing apart from yourself and having as much fun as possible, I'm afraid I skirted past that period quite seriously and severely. And it's something that I regret enormously now, but there's not really any point.
So you regret not sowing your wild oats, etc.?
Yes, I do. I do regret that.
In those days, did you spend any evenings fumbling in the back seats of cinemas?
Fumbling in haystacks? No, I certainly didn't. Whenever I went to cinemas, I always raced for the front seat, I'm afraid. I was that boring.